now he's being dragged into the left more. His boat is deeper and deeper in the water. He's letting go of both oars now. This is so uncomfortable. Then he's trying to hold on to his rigger just not to fall into the water. These are pure instincts. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Aram. Welcome to the Competitive Rowing channel. Welcome to Aram Training. Now, this week's video is about what is called a rowing fail on YouTube. But in my humble opinion, it's one of the best saves I've ever seen in a single. Let me show you the original footage first, and then we're going to discuss it. Check it out. All right, okay, good. So here's what happened. Let me explain this from a non-rower's perspective and from a rower's perspective. A rowing boat per se does not float in a stable way. There are very few rowing boats that would sit stable in the water without a rower in the first place. So a good friend of mine and an athlete of our team in Canada, Craig and Colleen, they mentioned that their Carl Douglas double would actually float dead stable and straight in the water. Honestly, I have not seen this with many other top brand boats. So this is a rare breed. A rowing shell is only stabilized with the water pressure on the hull. There is a tiny bit of a fin that is usually not much deeper in the water than that. Sometimes they are this deep, but then they're pretty short. And other than that, you stabilize a boat with blades, so with the oars. And the moment you can control the oars, this boat is pretty wide. So an oar, if you talk about a single like here, the oar length would usually be between 282 and 290 centimeters. It really depends on. In a single, probably around 285 to 288 centimeters. And if you are able to control both oars, you are pretty wide. It's a triangle of stability, if you want to call it that way. And what Alexis Lopez, I think I was in contact with him before, a cool guy, I think he's from Mexico, is trying to do, he's trying to reach forward. In the single, we always do this. We do this for a very simple reason. In the single, there's not much space to store your stuff. So we need something to drink. This is why he's got his water bottle right here. This thing right here is an Nielsen Kellerman speed coach. Essentially tells you how fast you are. It's not the only product on the market. There are pretty good apps now out there where you can simply use your phone. And sometimes people mount GoPros. This is becoming more and more, fortunately so we can see this video. So the GoPro has to be mounted somewhere here. This is where we see the picture from. And I think it was either checking that the view is right or the GoPro was actually recording, something alike. And the position that he's in right now is a pretty typical position if you want to prepare. So usually when we push off the dock, we would put our feet into the foot stretchers, and this is where we'd have both oars together, and it would be clamped in between our upper arms and our thighs essentially. And as long as these two oars stay connected and the blades on the outside stay somewhat flat, so not squared, but actually flat, then the boat is very stable. Okay, so I've just organized an oar for you. So that's a blade, it's one with random foils, and usually the blade should be flat on the water, then it's all good and the boat is stable. And you see that the blade is flat because you see we have here in the sleeve, we have flat surfaces and round surfaces, and that is supposed to help you. If the blade's flat now, and that is touching the oar lock on the bottom. So we're going from flat to flat in order to turn it. And once you are somewhat on the edge, it may start to rotate by itself if you put on pressure here on the oar handle. Does it make sense? So I think at that stage what is happening that his flat surface wasn't 100% flat anchored on the oar log, but it was kind of on the edge, And if you push here, it may actually start to rotate a tiny bit, okay? And then it will go deep into the water. And this is what happened here. So he wasn't 100% stable. And now, as he's reaching forward, his oars are still together. So the oar handles are still together. So right here, this is still given. This is okay. But the issue is that the blades themselves don't have sufficient stability because they're not 100% flat. And the conditions were pretty choppy. So the water wasn't calm at all. So now that he's reaching forward, his upper body has to go forward, which means the drama starts because now we can see that his oar handles are starting to separate. What gives you the most stability in the boat is to control your oars, namely the oar handles. And the moment you lean forward, what is going to happen, either you're going to push both handles down so both blades come off the water, so it's going to be tippy, or you're going to lose one oar handle and it's going to go somewhere. Now, interestingly, he still had pretty decent control over both at that stage, but he was nowhere near the GoPro. So watch what happens next. His port side oar was already pretty deep in the water. That is somewhere here. That is very low. So there's not much stability you're getting from that. You cannot see the full oar, but that's the oar handle. All the way here is the blade. And his oar is only visible up to here. So that much is underwater and very deep underwater. You can see the angle. So you kind of can guess that is not a comfortable position to be in. So he's significantly less stable on his port side, on the right side, than on the left side. Always from a rower's perspective. So now he's reaching forward more. So I can handle that, I can handle that. So he's sliding forward as much as possible. His feet are not in the shoes at that stage. And now you can see the drama unfolds. His two oar handles are very, very far apart. And he's reaching forward more. He knows it's going to be uncomfortable. But what happens now is that his left oar is tucked in there nicely, right in his armpit. That's stable. It isn't going to go anywhere. But his right oar, his port side oar right there, is pretty loose. There's much space. There's no support from the bottom or from the top, except for his legs supporting the oar a tiny bit, but that's not enough, especially given the fact that he's already pretty deep in the water with his right oar, and his right rigger is also pretty close to the water. Now comes the actual forward reach, and now for a brief moment he's stabilizing both oars. The right oar wants to come up again because he's pretty centered now in the boat. now he's doing the final forward reach, and here comes all the mishap. Because what's happening now as he's reaching forward, he will lose support for this oar right here. Because his upper body is going forward, this oar right here is going to be lost just in a moment because he has to make up for quite a bit of gap between the GoPro and his hand. Now his arm comes up, and as his arm comes up, his oar has no support whatsoever. And it's almost impossible to be stable enough in the boat that nothing's going to happen. So his oar is simply going to slide out right there because his upper body needs to come forward as well. It's not going to happen on this side because he's got his left arm, with which he's not reaching forward, pretty much attached to the boat. So of course his left oar isn't going to go anywhere, but you need two oars to be stable. Anybody who's ever been forced to row a pair alone knows what I'm talking about. And here it is, the oar just slipped out. He's close to the GoPro, but his oar is also gone. So at that stage he realizes, I'm missing something. There's no support on the right, and now you see the boat tilting massively to the right. He has to respond now. He's reaching back, looking to the right, and sees, the oar is significantly higher than it was. The inboard is significantly higher than it was. It is here. So it has gone quite a bit up. And it's not just going up, it's also going forward. So it has gone forward, the blade has traveled backward quite a bit. Now, we all know that if you go to the catch position and your oars go forward, the blades come closer to the boat. Hence, the catch is a pretty unstable position. This is why a lot of people don't dare to reach for the catch, especially if they're new to rowing. the catch is simply unstable. And this is also, on a side note, why a lot of catch angle doesn't always make sense, because you're more pushing away from the boat than trying to propel the boat past the fixed blades. The angle is simply not a very effective one anymore. Now at that stage, the drama unfolds a bit more. He's looking at the right oar, trying to grab it, thinking everything is going to be okay. But you see that his blade is being dragged very close to the boat. Anybody who's ever fallen into the water, and I have my fair share of that as well, knows that the blade being it's right here, the blade being so close is very uncomfortable, and there are stages where this goes so far that your oar handle goes so far away from the boat, because the blade is so close to the boat that you cannot reach your oar handle anymore. And that's almost a guarantee that you're going to fall into the water. It's not 100%, but very close. So he's reaching. The problem is, how do you reach without leaning to the right? Because the right doesn't give you any support now. There's zero support on his right side. At the same time, he has to reach out. So he has to be quick. He's doing something very, very good. He's looking straight. That might be, is the GoPro recording my mistake now? And he now has solid grip of his oar, but the position is not very good anymore. You can see the center of his weight is about to shift to the right, all the way. And you can see that he's trying to bring his upper body back into the middle of the boat, but now his left blade is very deep into the water. It's all the way down. That's all you see. So let's use our oar we've got here. That is the oar handle. That is everything that's still in the air. Everything from here all the way to there is in the water, which means not much stability, especially not in a single, which by itself is that narrow. By that narrow, I mean the hull. Of course, the deck is wider, but the hull is very narrow. It's a joke. That's how you make fast boats. Now comes the struggle, and this is the actual genius part about this. There's a reason why I'm making this video, because we can learn a lot from that. Now he's trying to bring in his right oar. He knows he can't lean to the left, so he has to bend his right arm. Excellent. He has to move back in order to have the blade come forward. So his blade needs to come forward. Right there, he needs to swing it around. So his inboard needs to come down and back. If that needs to come back, sorry for my ugly drawing here, if that needs to come back, he needs to push the entire upper body backwards towards the bow, so away from us. That will not very likely happen because his right oar is too deep in the water. Once the blade is deep in the water, and it is deep in the water and flat, it functions like an anchor. So it's very difficult to get it up. If you put the blade into the water and then turn it flat underneath the water surface, and then you try to push it up, what is going to happen is that it's actually going to drag you down. So you're going to be dragged closer, because the water on top of that flat blade in the water has more inertia. So of course you can flip the boat. That's how we catch a crab. That's the essence of catching a crab, having the blade tilt in the wrong way. So the very principle that helps us to accelerate a blade is the very principle that is almost a surefire guarantee to be dragged into the water. So that's a bit of a difficult situation right now. Now comes the balance game. At that stage, it looks all good again, but his body is not very well positioned. So watch what happens next. He's now trying to get both oar handles together, and this would be ideal. At that stage, his left blade is completely out of the water now, and both blades actually look quite nice, although it's a rather unstable position so far at the catch. But inertia still has its effect. This is why he's now tilting to the right. And you can see the bad state that his right blade is in. His right blade is tilted forward. Look at that here. So his blade could provide zero support because it's tilting forward. So essentially, his blade was tilted that way. There is no support. If that's the water, there is no support you can use. His right oar is also pulled out of the oar lock, namely here. This is going out. As his oar is being pulled out, you only have the round surface in your oar lock, which doesn't give you any horizontal stability. Nothing. So it's very difficult to control an oar this way. This is why we have the flat surfaces on the sleeve. At the same time, I think his left blade is in a pretty awkward position now as well. Now he thought it was all over, but it is not. What happens now is that he's trying to go back. At the same time that he's going back, you see that his left oar is going deeper into the water. How is this possible and why is it happening? If your blade is flat now and you move it this way in a slight bit of an angle, which his blade is in, it will go deeper. It will dig itself deeper into the water. And then you have the drag. So that means the blade actually pulls the rigger down into the water. Effectively, what he had was a lot of force, so there was a lot of downforce on this rigger because there was a lot of support for his blade on the way up in a negative sense, which means the water simply worked like a vertical anchor for him, highly uncomfortable. And the more he tried to go back into his position at the finish, the deeper he dug the blade into the water, because he was in a position where his blade got deeper and deeper and deeper the more he moved it forward. So a very unfortunate circumstance, to put it that way. It's a funny event. This is why we all can laugh about it, and I'm sure he had a good laugh about it as well. At that stage, the right blade is somewhat under control. Now the left blade is starting to create serious issues. You see, his left blade is almost completely submerged, and now that's a stage where you usually know if the rigger is underwater, it's only a matter of time before the inevitable happens. So this is very often the case, but not with him. He was able to save it, and that's the magical part about this entire video. So now he's trying to stick his right blade out into the oarlock, and at the same time he realizes, my left blade does not support me at all. I'm very deep. At that moment, he's doing something that most beginners would do instinctively right at the beginning. They would lean to the opposite side, which would be useless. But in his case, his left blade is essentially not just not creating any support, his boat is half in the water. And as the only way to keep himself floating is to lean to the right as much as he can, he's doing precisely that. So, a way to go for his core muscles. Good job. Now he's being dragged into the left more. His boat is deeper and deeper in the water. He's letting go of both oars now. This is so uncomfortable. Then he's trying to hold on to his rigger just not to fall into the water. These are pure instincts. Now he realizes, okay, it's not all over yet. I might be able, if I just bring my right hand, you see it's struggling. I don't want to fall into the water. I don't want to. At that stage, he sees the oar right in front of him. But at the same time, he can't let go of his hand, because if he'd let go of his hand right now, he would fall. But he wants to bring this oar closer. He has to find a way how to bring this oar and this oar in front of him together. These two need to connect. Now, quickly, immediately, rapido. So at that stage, he's using his body weight to stay balanced. He understands that there's no way he can stay this way, so he's trying to bring one leg just in case into the water already. Let's just get used to that. So he's shifting part of his body weight to the left, and he's going for the inevitable, no, not yet, he's too ambitious. Okay, so he's leaning more to the left because his left leg, he's leaning more to the right now. His left leg is moving out of the way, out. Now he's almost laying flat into the boat. This is a very good position to understand. Whenever you try to get back into a boat, this is how you do it. So if you've ever done this, get back into the boat practice, you hop on top of the boat, try to get both oars, and then you try to slowly move your center of weight into the boat and have a seat. This is how it's done. Now, apparently, Alexis has experience with this, so he's grabbing his right oar with both hands and forces it back. That immediately, you see this? This immediately stabilizes the boat. That is the save. That is the main save. And now he's trying to get his center of weight back into it again. Now his left oar comes. Once more, it's dragged deeper because it's in a flat state. So at that stage, his left leg is already well in the water. Now his right blade is under control. And now he's able to say, okay, I use all my weight on the right. I control my right oar. At that stage, gravity has put his entire left rigger underwater, his entire left rigger. His boat is already filling with water. But for you non-rowers, that's not a big deal. These singles can float. I've rowed my single with being completely submerged underwater. My shoes were underwater, my seat was underwater, but the main hull was not, because it's got air chambers. So they don't sink unless these air chambers are damaged or the lids are damaged, but you can row a single pretty much underwater. It's going to be slow. It's going to be a weird angle for your hands to work at, but at the same time, you're not going to sink. There are boats that will sink, or especially the older boats like to sink in the bigger crew classes, but a single is not going to sink. So at that stage, he's now trying the last attempt to save. He just doesn't want to go in. So as long as he holds on to his right oar, it's going to be good. He just needs to get a hold of his left oar somehow. It's pretty far. So what he's doing now, for a moment, he's trying to secure the right. He sees his left oar coming in. He's going away again. He needs to get a hold of that left oar somehow, which is happening now. He's bringing it in. He already looks at the right oar, which is going away for a second. Oh no, right oar is going away quickly. Save him. Okay, saves the right oar. Where's the left? Is it anywhere close? Yes, can I get a hold of both oars? Looks good. Reaches across, and now, for the first time, has something of a chance to control the boat. At that stage, he's trying to shift his weight back into the boat. You can see this, which is pretty brave because his blade's on a very bad angle. You can see his right blade and his left blade, they're not supporting him at all. But he's used to worse by now. Now he's in the middle of his boat, in the center. Now it's about time to control his right blade. He's already looking over to his mate. Looks like, hey, what have you been doing? That's a good save, buddy. And they were all good sports about it now. And from now on, it's pretty safe. The fact that his left oar is so deep underwater is because he's trying to wiggle his blade straight. And from now on, it's smooth sailing. He's controlling his both oars again. Having the feet forward is something quite normal. At stages, if you adjust your foot stretchers in the boat, for example, to the position of your feet, we would put both feet on the rigger. If you have a conventional rigger like this one, it works. And then you have free hands. You reach over your oars, over the top of your oars, and then you're stable. That's it. That's the end of the story. Okay. So what can we learn from this? A, always, always, always control your oars. Control your oar handles. B, always know in which position your blades are. It makes a big difference if your blades are feathered or squared or something in between. The third thing we can learn from that is it is not over until it's over. It ain't over until it's over, okay? So fight, struggle. And the fourth thing we can learn from that is learn and practice in warm water and in safe water, so no alligators and no storms and no currents and no drafts and no boats and no barges. Learn in a safe environment how to get back into an old single. Use an old single. Every club has a few old singles. And try to get back into the boat. It will teach you very important skills, not just how to stabilize a boat in an extreme situation. You can also benefit from that in a situation like this and also in a race situation. The thing is that you will never subject yourself to such an uncomfortable position in a typical training environment. But if it's a hot day and you're in a safe water, go ahead, try it out. Okay. So, well done, Alexis Lopez. I highly recommend you follow this guy on Instagram. If you want to send me footage, send it to me over Instagram or shoot me a YouTube link or send it to me, post it to me on rowing.zone. This is where I am the most. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next video. All the best. Bye-bye. Check it out.